What's good, YouTube? We're back. It's been a couple of weeks, and now we're back to give you guys information. We're back to provide value. Just went and had a good meeting a while ago. With my co-host. I hope you've been tuning into the podcast because we've been giving a lot of great information, a lot of game. We've been really doing our thing over there. So make sure if you haven't, go follow OTC Pod on YouTube. It's down here. It's down here. Yeah. So make sure you go follow that. Our podcast comes out every Monday, and we're giving a lot of game over there. But without further ado, we're going to be talking about VOO. VOO, before we get into it, this is not investing advice. This is merely information. I want you guys to go take this information, do your own research, and apply this information. If you feel comfortable after you've done your research and, after you've consulted, a professional, if you feel like you need to. But we're going to be talking about VOO. Why VOO? I feel like VOO is one of those all in one perfect investment vehicles for a beginner investor. And that's what this video is going to be about, the perfect investment to get the ball rolling on your portfolio to start out a portfolio for a beginner investor. And that's what I think VOO is. So for those of you that do not know what VOO is a S&P 500 Vanguard ETF. And the S&P 500 is pretty much an index that tracks the top 500 largest companies in the United States by market cap. So this is an ETF that will be tracking that index. You got me? And one more thing before we even get into this, when we're talking about ETFs, the holdings, the stocks within that ETF, you do not have ownership of, you have exposure to. You have exposure to those assets, have exposure to the appreciation, the depreciation, and that's essentially what an ETF is. You're getting exposure to all of the different holdings within that ETF, and it's safer, it gives you exposure, and it's not as volatile. And when we're talking about an investment like VOO, it has a proven track record of giving or providing gains over a 15 plus year period. So this is why I think it's perfect for beginner investors. So when we're talking about VOO, right here you can see the chart. Year to date, well, not year to date. Year to date, we're down a little bit, as you know. Um, there's a lot going on. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a little sickness. There's a lot going on in the markets right now. So when we're talking about year to date, for those of you that are in individual stocks, as you know, like a Palantir, and Nvidia, AMD, a Broadcom, an Apple, a Microsoft, a Google, anything like that, for a stock to be down year to date only 4.87%, this proves my point, and one of the biggest reasons why I think this is a great investment for beginner investors, starting out their portfolio, something that they can dollar cost average into over the long term and pretty much be almost guaranteed very significant gains over a long period of time. It's proven. Proof is in the pudding, and we'll get into that as I'll show you guys this chart. So year to date, it's down 4.87%. Of course, there's a lot going on with tariffs. There's a lot going on with, a lot of macro news, geopolitics. We have war tensions and all that kind of stuff. So, but let's zoom out. So the performance of the VOO over a year period up 7.69%. That's great. Okay. We zoom out 3 years, up 27.62%. We zoom out again, up 5 years. 5 years were up 129.37%. And I'm looking up here for those of you that want to need. This is what I'm looking at. We got a 10-year, we're up 219.31%. 15-year, we're up 545.08%. That is amazing. And this is what you want to see from an investment over the long term. This is what you want to see in your portfolio. This is what you want to see when you're looking at an investment, you know, gradually up, up. You have, your little dips, your little pullbacks. Of course, that's going to happen. You're going to have your retracements. But when you zoom out and you look at this asset over the long term, it goes up. Higher lows, higher highs, continues to climb over the long period. And that's what you want. That's what you want as a new investor. Now, we've already established, looking at this chart, that this is something that has a proven track record of guaranteeing, at least over the last 15 years. You go to this 20-year, and we're still working on that information. We're still in that real time, but over 20 years, 25 years, you could expect VOO to still be performing like this, unless we hit some sort of major recession. And even if you look here, this is what around 2020. So this dip right here, this is a COVID dip. COVID, see, it still keeps climbing up. 2022, that was a very bad year for stocks, crypto. You had the war, Ukraine, Russia, a lot of things going on that year. There's a very bad year. We've seen a dip since then, been climbing back up. So as you can see, what this means is this ETF tracks the S&P 500, which is an index that tracks the top 500 largest companies in the United States by market cap. So that's what this ETF is tracking. So the reason why I believe VOO is such a safe investment, especially over the long term, is because the U.S. stock market is very resilient. We have pullbacks, we have recession, we have drops, we have bear markets, but the stock market always recovers. The stock market has recovered from every pullback 100% of the time. It may take some time, but the stock market always recovers, which means that, if history repeats itself, our stock market has been very resilient. So you can expect an ETF like VOO to continue to perform well over the long term. Yeah, you got me, over the long term. Now you even see, just go look at the stock market. Go look at the stock market. We've looked at things like FinViz and the heat map, and go look at some of these other investments year to date and see how much they're down. Tesla at one point was down over 40%. And this is only down 4.87% year to date, in spite of all of the things that are going on in the economy right now: mass layoffs, mass deportations, war tensions, tariffs, all of these things going on. And in spite of that, VOO is still sitting only down 4.87% year to date. That's amazing. That's what you want to have, your portfolio anchored in if you're a new investor, because you're not going to get those big moves, those big swings, you know, up or down, and that's what you want. You want to have something where you can play a little defense in the market, you know, regardless of what's going on in the market. Your account is not going to be taking these big hits, and that's what you want to see. Now, let's go right here. VOO, returns by period. TTM, trailing 12-month return, 7.69%. So 7.69% is return at in the last 12 months. Last 3 years, it's returned 27.62%. Last 5 years, 129.37%. Last 10 years, 219.31%. 15 years, like we talked about, 563.14. So as you can see, all this is in the green. Trailing 12 months, last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. You see the trend? The number gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Guarantee returns over the long term. This is a very strong investment. And this is just something that I think a lot of beginner investors will benefit greatly from if you invest into this, dollar cost average into this over the long term. Or even if you buy, different pullbacks. We can get into strategies later, but the proof is in the pudding. The numbers don't lie. This is what you want to see, something performing very well over the long term. Yearly returns, because this is returns by period. Yearly returns. 2025, of course, we're still, in the midst of the year. 2024 ended the year 24.98%. That's amazing. That's amazing. A lot of people see these returns and, they go crazy. But this is not normal. This is not normal. You're talking about a hedge fund, 7 to 10% would be amazing. You're talking about 24%, 2024, 2023, 26.32%. Of course, like I told you, 2022 was a bad year. It doesn't matter what you go look at. You go look at stocks, crypto. It was a bad year. Everything was down that year, so that's expected. 2021, 28.79%. 2022, even in the midst of COVID, 18.32%. 2019, 31.37%. 2018, down 4.5%. 2017, 21.77%. 2016, 12.17%. So as you can see, over the last, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. We've only had two negative years when it comes to VOO. You see what I'm saying? So you're talking about something that, let's look at it year to date. It's not volatile. It's not extremely volatile. That's what you want. It's performed extremely well over the long term. We're looking at the numbers. You see it right here. Not making any of this up. These are real numbers. It's performed extremely well over the long term. It's not extremely volatile, you know. And then look at this. We compare it to some of its peers. Compare it to some of its peers. This is VOO, of course, what we're talking about. You look at another S&P 500 ETF like SPY. And this is another thing I want to talk about, this expense ratio. You want to pay attention to that. You want your expense ratio to be as cheap as possible. And as you can see, VOO has one of the lowest ones at 0.03. You have VTI also zero zero point zero 0.03. VTI is another amazing index fund. You have IVV at 0.03. You have SPLG at 0.02. And, you look at these returns, comparing it to some of its peers. And as you can see, VOO seems to be outpacing. Oh, man, VIG, they had a big year, 15-year. But as you can see, man, VOO looks to be outpacing everybody. You see what I'm saying? We ain't. I can't make it no more clear for y'all. I'm showing y'all the information, showing y'all the analytics, and y'all can go make the decision for yourself. That's what we doing here. We give you the information, so that it won't be an excuse anymore. You've seen the numbers. I'm showing you it's not volatile. Performs amazing over the long term. It's giving you almost guaranteed, damn near guaranteed returns. You see that. We've only had two down years. And look how it's performing compared to some of its other peers tracking the S&P 500. See what I'm saying? It's outpacing, it's outperforming all of them, you know? And then, okay, we don't need anything here. All right. So, what more do I need to say? What more do I need to say? Now, if you want to know what are the holdings, I'll give you the holdings real quick. The top 10 holdings in VOO. Let me give you those real quick before we get up out of here. So, top 10 holdings in VOO, you have Apple at 1, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Alphabet, Berkshire Hathaway, Broadcom, Alphabet, Class C shares, and Tesla. Currently, those are the top 10 holdings. Sound like some heavy hitters to me, don't it? Sound like some heavy hitters. And when you're talking about these ETFs, know that it is, actively managed. So every year, if a stock is not performing, it will be rotated out for one that is, and that's where that expense ratio comes in. And yeah, I don't really know what more to say. I don't know what more I can say. Look at that chart. Look at that chart. That's what you want to see. You want to be a part of that. You want to be a part of that. Look at these numbers. You see what I'm saying? You see these gains year over year. You see these gains. That means your portfolio, let's say you were, 100% invested in VOO, which it's not a bad strategy, especially if you want to play it safe, especially if you want a compounding effect, if you want to gradually grow your account and see those gains, see that compounding interest, and have exposure to all of the top companies in the S&P 500, you can't go wrong. Look at the numbers. Your account would have been going crazy. See what I'm saying? But that's all I got for today, man. If you're a beginner investor, Again, this is not investing advice. I've shown you the numbers. I've shown you the proof in the pudding. Make the decision for yourself. Make the decision for yourself. Look into VOO. Go on Yahoo Finance, ChatGPT, Bar Chart, FinViz. I've showed you many, many, many different resources to look into these things. Look on Google. VOO. It's one of them ones. Again, this is not investing advice. Do your research. I've shown you some numbers here. I am invested in VOO. I've been invested in VOO for a while now. And yeah, I think this is should be a staple in your portfolio, especially if you're a beginner investor. Dollar cost average into this thing for the long term. And thank me later, man. I'll see you on the next one.